Everybody. Warm welcome to all the presenters. I request the presenters to mute their audio because there is some echoing sound. So I request all presenters to mute their audio, please. Yeah, okay, right. Thank you very much. Very warm welcome to all the presenters, dignitaries. So, special welcome to Dr. Mamata Madam. Dr. Mamata Madam, I think you can just acknowledge everybody through just a wave of a hand, right? Thank you very much. So, Dr. Mamata Madam, IAS has come. And we have Dr. Narmada Madam also. Madam, can you please also acknowledge? Yes, thank you very much. We have Dr. Kaushik, the president of KRPA, and we have Dr. Chandrasekhar, sir, the Sutradhar of today's proceedings. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming into this webinar. Indeed, it's going to be a very enlightening and interesting webinar. Very warm welcome to, with folded hands, I thank the VVIP attendees because I got a call in the morning from the additional drugs controller that he is very happy with our initiative, and Dr. Amresh Tumgi also has said that he will be attending today's webinar. Thank you very much indeed. A lot of VVIP attendees are here. Very warm welcome to all of you. Please treat this as a personal welcome. Today, the theme of the discussion is going to be COVID-19 and society. We have had a lot of technical seminars and webinars on COVID-19, but this time it's going to be more of that with respect to the societal activity. The virus basically has its root in the Latin word called virus itself, which means poison. In Sanskrit, it is Visha for the virus, and that also refers to poison. And in the Greek word, it is WIOIS, vios, which also means poison. So virus was always referred to as a poison from time immemorial. Now there has been a lot of debate as to whether these viruses are living or non-living chemicals. The debate still rages on because people think that it is more of a chemical poison. There is another school of thought which says that once it gets into the system, then it starts behaving like a biological activity. It is interesting to note also a very humorous observation. The common cold which is caused by a virus is cured by a doctor in 7 days and without a doctor in a week's time. Why this adage has come about is that most of these viral infections are self-limiting infections. However, in the case of certain lethal viruses like Ebola virus, Nipah virus, we do not have a particular cure. Yes, HIV is also included in that. So that is why it becomes very difficult to manage these viruses. And now the highly contagious SARS-CoV-2 virus has taken over 11.1 lakh lives worldwide. Now that is a very dangerous trend that we have seen. An interesting book is making its rounds. It's called as Viral Fitness. This viral fitness is basically about how the next SARS or West Nile virus is in the making. This engaging book written by Jaap is a professor in the University of Amsterdam, Netherlands. And he has seen how the civet cat has been responsible for the emergence of SARS-CoV virus. In the Wuhan wet market, we saw how the various animals which are sold there for food, etc., is responsible for the generation of the virus. Like, for example, it is seen that the bat, which is a reservoir of the viruses, there are estimated to be 1,000 types of viruses, pathogenic ones, in this bat. But the bat does not get infected by the virus. It can infect other animals, and that is how the transmission or the zoonotic infection takes place. Arabian camel was supposed to be the vector or the in between animal through which the MERS virus came in. Civet cat, the SARS-CoV-1, and the pangolin is responsible for the SARS-CoV-2 virus. So bush meat, which is also procured and consumed in Africa, is said to be the source of the Ebola virus. So what we have seen that population movement, trade, climate change, all these aspects have impinged on the generation of pathogenic viruses in human population. And despite various vaccines and medicines, still the danger is that there could be an attack, bioterrorism included, of the viruses into the human population. Hence, It is important to note that viruses can spread without any visible signs, and they can hide in animals, and also various species of viruses can multiply in animals and plants. So what this book reiterates is that viruses have to be understood to understand why actually viruses are able to adapt to our environment, what makes them very strong, what is the secret of their fitness. In the 541 549 AD, there was a very, very devastating plague called as the Justinian plague, because that time Emperor Justinian was there in the Roman Empire. In the Justinian plague, which lasted for about 4 months and also continued for about 3 centuries, there was not less than 5 crore deaths, about half of the world's population at that time. And later on, when the Black Death came, it was 5 crore Europeans who again succumbed to that disease, which was caused by Yersinia pestis, which is a bacterium. Why I'm giving you this example is that this is the impact that various pandemics and endemics can have, and that is why the government is taking so many steps like lockdown and other kind of steps, wearing the mask, etc., to avoid such a devastating result. If the virus is lethal, then humanity has had it. So this invisible biological attacker has got a number of spike proteins, as you can see, and it latches onto our cells through the ACE inhibitors, injects the RNA. This is an RNA virus. And through that injection of the RNA virus, there is replication. And this replication will make it happen, and there will be devastating results, collapse of the immune system, and thus succumbing to the infection. We have also seen that the pharmacist has played a major role as a corona warrior. And we should remember that COVID-19 virus spreads not only through cough, but also the salivary droplets, because this virus tends to be in the upper respiratory tract. And when we speak, 2.5 microscopic salivary droplets are uttered with every word. And when it enters, whether it is through the nose or even through the eye, there is a devastating result in which there is an infection. Even if a person is exposed to the virus for about 10 minutes, then it is possible to catch the infection in an ill-ventilated room. Recently, there was an autopsy done in Bangalore itself on the dead body. They have observed that the COVID-19 virus can survive even after 18 hours. It is also observed that in the mouth, throat, and nasal area, this virus will remain. And the lung, actually, which has to be like a soft sponge ball, becomes like a leather ball. From 600 to 700 grams, it becomes almost 2 kgs. That is the devastating impact that the COVID-19 has on the dead body, or that has been observed in the dead body. So it's important to notice that it's not only a lung infection, but it is actually a blood infection where clot formation is also there. Strong immunity is important. Vitamin A, C, D3, zinc, polyphenols all play a major role in improving the immunity of a person. Zinc has antiviral effects too. Vitamin D3 deficiency can cause more amount of succumbing to the illness and disease. This has been observed even in the Spanish pandemic influenza time also, 1918 to 1919, where the similar scenes were panning out. So there have been various areas which were demarked for the virus suffering patients. There was strong instructions to wear the mask, and also stretchers were available for carrying ambulances and so on. Today, the aerosol route of transmission of COVID-19 has also been established. And what COVID-19 causes in the symptomatic patients is that there could be tiredness, fever, dry cough, leading to breathlessness, and several other complications. Vulnerable subjects, particularly diabetics, hypertensive, cigarette smokers, liver disease patients, they are the ones who suffer a lot. So COVID-19 infection causes several complications, which include the cardiovascular complications, mainly due to the cytokine storm, which causes lung injuries, cell death, and there is a ground glass effect on the lungs. So you will observe that effect as if the stone has been thrown onto the glass. COVID toes is another interesting presentation where there is pain and burning sensation in the toes. And anosmia, which is the loss of smell, loss of taste is also occurring, and also hiccups. In this interesting case of Dr. Yi, from being a fair person, he has turned into a black person because of the hormonal disturbances caused due to the treatment as well as the COVID-19 infection. One of them recovered. So there can be a lot of effects of this, including in the skin. the children where Kawasaki-like disease symptoms are seen. The super spreader of coronavirus has been observed to be the gyms, the karaokes, as well as the bars and where group singing is done. So please remember to stop touching your face, the mouth, nose, and eyes. So we say don't touch men, mouth, eyes, and nose. Remember that hand washing is important. You have to wash the palms, back of the palms, in between the fingers and the nails and the thumb. That is the right approach. Whether you are using a sanitizer or a hand wash, this is how you should use it. It is also important for you to use oral care therapy. You can gargle with the mouthwashes to ensure that the viral load comes down in the throat area and you are protected. It's all about keeping the viral load low. A lot of drugs have been recommended, and now there are certain issues regarding these drugs that I will be taking it up in an interesting quiz which will be following. But please remember that various other issues like nasal saline solution, Jalneti, stem inhalation has all helped in the recovery of the patients. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we come to the pharmaquisitive. So I am requesting you to type in the chat box the answers to this quiz. So please immediately kindly start typing fastest finger first, and whoever gets the prize fastest finger first, we are going to send the gift hamper to that person. So the first question is, what is the result of WHO Solidarity Therapeutics trial with regard to the IV remdesivir and COVID-19 mortality? So there is a recently it has come up that COVID-19 mortality and IV remdesivir, there was some issue that has been brought out in this WHO Solidarity Therapeutics trial. What is the answer to this question? Please tell me. Please type in the chat box. There is a good prize awaiting you. The gift hamper will be sent to you by courier. Please write the answer for this. What is the result of WHO Solidarity Therapeutics trial with reference to IV remdesivir and COVID-19 patient mortality? Please type it in the chat box. I'm not seeing any answer. Please, pharmacists, what are you doing? Start typing the answer. What is the result of WHO Solidarity Therapeutics trial with regard to IV remdesivir and COVID-19 patient mortality? Some insight has been given in this Solidarity trial. What is the answer to this question? Please type in the chat box. Do you know the answer? Please type. Otherwise, I'll have to move on to the next question. We don't have all the time. Fastest finger first. I'm not seeing any answers coming in. Please type. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm looking forward for your answers. Not a single pharmacist has answered this question. What is the result of this Solidarity Therapeutics trial with regard to remdesivir? Something very major has come out of this with respect to remdesivir and COVID-19 patient mortality. Are you aware? Please type. I'm not seeing a single answer. Please type in the chat box. Should I go to the next question? I think this question is very tough for you. You have not been able to answer. Anybody? Not a single answer has come. What is the result of WHO Solidarity Therapeutics trial with regard to IV remdesivir? Median recovery time is 10 to 15 days. Soumya, that is a good try, but I am afraid that is not the right answer. Anybody else? I'll wait for one more reply and then I'll go to the next one. It is with reference to COVID-19 patient recovery and remdesivir. Good try, Soumya, but it is not correct. Anybody else? Is it tough? Yes, tough. Okay, I will give you the answer, Amarjit. It was a little tough. 4 treatments were evaluated. Yes, Arman. 4 treatments were evaluated. What is the result with respect to remdesivir? What is the result with respect to remdesivir? No, not 3 to 10 days. Pankaj Pant. Okay, I will give the answer. I think it is very tough for the young pharmacists. They were unable to answer. Well, the Solidarity Therapeutics trial says remdesivir has no impact. Viresh, you're correct. You got it right. There is no effect of remdesivir on the COVID-19 patient mortality. Shocking, isn't it? Dr. Kaushik, please make note of Viresh's name. Right. Thank you very much. Good answer, Viresh. Now we'll go to the next question. Is the COVID-19 virus an adenovirus? Is the COVID-19 virus an adenovirus? Let us see if you can answer this. It is another challenge question. I have got a mix of both easy and tough questions. Tell me, is COVID-19 virus an adenovirus? Please let me know. Please quickly type the answer. Viresh, you are on a strong wicket. Let us see if you can give the answer. Harman, you almost came there, but you are not able to give the complete answer. No, Fatima is correct. It is not adenovirus because all adenoviruses are DNA viruses. Very good answer. Fatima is first. Let's go to the next question. Which land animal is supposed to have pushed SARS-CoV-2 virus to the human population? This is an easy question. Please answer. Which land animal is supposed to have pushed the SARS-CoV-2 virus to the human population? Which was that? Which was that animal which pushed the SARS-CoV-2 virus? No, not bat. I am very clear it is the land animal. Which is that? Pankaj, try again. I have said it is the land animal. No, not bat. It is the flying mammal. I am talking about a land animal. From the bat, it went to another animal, and from that animal, it came to the human population. All these are not camel. Camel was for MERS, not monkey. Monkey was for probably the chimpanzee, or monkey was for AIDS, HIV. But for SARS-CoV-2 virus, which causes COVID-19, no. Pig is for the Nipah virus, not for this. Nobody, come on. Pangolin, Harman is correct. Pangolin is correct. Pangolin is correct. Okay, please make a note of their names. Let us try to choose one particular winner. What is Agusia? This is another googly I am putting. Fatima, you have given 2 correct. Okay, but you are a little late. Okay, what is Agusia? Let us see if anybody can answer this. What is Agusia? Come on, ladies and gentlemen, answer this question. What is Agusia? Anybody? I talked about anosmia. Now I'm talking about Agusia. What is Agusia? Yes, nobody is trying to take a guess. Loss of taste. Tejas, was it Mr. Google answering? But anyway, it was a correct answer. I accept it. Arjun, very good. Now let us see the 5th question. This could be the tiebreaker. Please watch Kaushik. Loss of taste, Viresh has also said, but it is slightly late. Which is the first discovered virus? This we have studied in PUC itself. Which is the first discovered virus? We have studied in PUC, and the person who discovered this virus got the Nobel Prize. Which is the first discovered virus? Can anybody take a pot shot at this? Recollect your PUC language information. We studied this in pre-university course, PCMB, in biology it came. Which is the first discovered virus? Yes, I'm not seeing any answers. Which is the first discovered virus? No, not rabies. Not, yes, Gopika is correct. In fact, you can qualify the answer much better. Anybody? Yes, Soumya is correct. It is tobacco mosaic virus, TMV. It was synthesized, it was crystallized into a biochemical, and that is where the first virus, yes, tobacco mosaic virus. I've got only one question. Now this will be a tiebreaker. Dr. Kaushik, you please see, let us see who is going to answer this. Then we'll have to choose one winner. This is the tiebreaker question which is coming up. Which blood type individual is supposed to be more susceptible to COVID-19? One Chinese study has said, if you are having this blood type, this blood group, that means you are more susceptible for this COVID-19 infection. Which is that blood group? Come on, this is the tiebreaker. Let us see. No, not B positive. Presenter should not answer, please. Presenter, not AB negative. Not AB negative. Yes, anybody? A and B. No, wrong. I will not accept that, Viresh. You are half correct. You are half correct. A pause. Yes, it is Sri Kumar sir. Of course, he is the person who has done PhD in that blood. Okay, now I am going to take a call on this. We will give it to Dr. Viresh. I will tell you why. Viresh answered the first question correct, okay? And after that, he has attempted correctly. And this question, he was half correct. I agree, he was not fully correct, he was half correct, but there were no other persons who have
Viresh
come
Pratap, yes.
above Viresh. So do you agree with me, Dr. Kaushik, that we give the prize to Dr. Mr. Viresh?
Yes. Yeah, Viresh Pratap, yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much, everybody, for participating in this quiz. It has been exciting, and now numbers are also increasing. Please ask your people to join into this webinar. Exciting webinar is on. So with the loss of socialization and office atmospherics, lockdown fatigue has become another problem, which leads to even depression. So learn to socialize. Maybe it is online. And there is a point. Some people think that consuming alcohol, it may reduce your chance to COVID-19 because alcohol kills viruses. Well, consuming 30 ml or 60 ml alcohol is not going to kill the viruses in the body. Alcohol, if it is put on the skin, it will kill the viruses, but not inside the body. Oh, what a smile. This is Julia Roberts who is giving this exquisite smile. In the University of California, Berkeley, they have studied the classroom photographs of people smiling. Some smiled genuinely. It is called Duchenne smile. And some gave false smiles. They have seen that the person who gives a Duchenne smile, which means the smile goes up to the eyes, there is a crow's nest which forms there, and it is a voluntary, no, it is an involuntary action. So this is a non-Duchenne smile. She looks very pretty and you are attracted to her, but it's a non-Duchenne smile. Beware of it. Smiling is very important. They have seen that if you smile, you are more happier. And in that study in the Mills College, they have seen that the persons who smiled genuinely had better life, better marriage, better career compared to the non-genuine smilers. On an average, children smile 400 times a day. Happy people smile 40 to 50 times a day. But most of us average people smile only 20 times a day. So improve your career prospects, become more successful by smiling better. And we Group Pharma has always partnered dentists and pharmacists to make you smile better. Avoid the contact greetings. So the take-home messages, please do the prevention, counseling, nutritional and Ayush support. Allopathic drugs also are important for wear the mask and become a model citizen. These are all important things. Thank you very much. I was Sunil Chiplunkar, M.Pharm, MBA, PGD, HRM, and I am the Group Pharmaceutical Vice President, Business Development, Advisory Member, KRPA. I was your co-speaker and moderator. I think the number of attendees has stabilized. So now we can proceed to the main part of this. So warm welcome to all for COVID-19 and society. So this is the theme on which we'll have a discussion where we have Dr. Mamata also joining us. But for the opening remarks, we have another remarkable lady, Dr. G.Y. Narmada with us, who is the Principal and Professor of Pharmaceutics Department, VIPS. She is a well-known figure here across India also. After completing her M.Pharm in Government College of Pharmacy in '92, she went on to do her PhD from Rajiv Gandhi University of Health Sciences. She, before becoming an academician, had a lot of experience in the industry. She has worked in Recon, which is basically BPRL, Canfa Labs, and also she has worked in the production department. Approved pharmacist certificate is what she is having, experience in current GMP documentation, writing of various SOPs. She has been the principal from March 2015, and she has been a professor from 2006 in VIPS as a lecturer, and she has handled several subjects including SUTEX and pharmaceutical jurisprudence. She is a paper setter for several subjects, so keep her in good humor. And she is a poster evaluator. That also makes you look at her with happiness. And she has received several grants for R&D, and she is a guide for M.Pharm students. She is known to do a lot of extracurricular activities, including coordinator for alumni association, student advisor, and so on. So I request Dr. Narmada Madam to take over because it is going to be interesting listening to you. So Dr. Narmada Madam, you are on. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much, Sunil, for a very nice introduction. Hope I'm audible.
Perfect, ma'am. Loud and clear.
Yeah. I also welcome Dr. Mamta, Dr. Chandrasekhar, and Dr. Kaushik, and all the other members to this. So today's my topic on opening remarks, that is COVID and society. There has been a lot of impact on various sectors. So I will be talking few sentences or a small talk on what has been the impact of the COVID-19 on the education sector. Me being in the teaching profession for more than 23 years, I would like to speak on what has been the impact on the education society. So the COVID-19 impact has, pandemic has affected the educational systems all worldwide, and it has led to near total closure of all the schools, universities, and colleges. That's all we are going through that. Okay. So as of September 30th, 2020, there's approximately 1.077 billion learners who are currently affected because of the closures of the schools, universities due to the pandemic. So that is what you can see here in the figure in the world map as to how many students have been affected worldwide. Now, in response to the school closures, the university closures, the UNESCO recommended the use of distance learning program. That was the alternative they thought of, okay, and open educational applications and platforms that schools and teachers can use to reach the learners remotely and limit the disruption of education. That was their thought as to how to keep the knowledge sharing going on. So now the UNESCO estimates that about 32 crores of students are affected in India, including those in the colleges and schools. So in India too, the government, as a part of a national wide lockdown, has closed all the educational institutions. I think we are all starting now again in the month of November or in month of December, we'll be starting again. And as a consequence of which, the learners ranging from school-going children to postgraduate students are affected. So COVID-19 has prompted, because of this situation, it has prompted the experts to rethink the conventional mode of education. That is, the digital education appears to be a viable solution to fill in the void for the classroom education. Because in the Indian context, we were moreover used to doing only the offline classes. So now we had to switch on to the different mode, that is the online platforms. So the pandemic has transformed the centuries old chalk talk teaching model. That's what most of the teachers in India we were doing, to one driven by technology. So now this disruption in the delivery of education is pushing the policymakers to figure out how to drive the engagement at scale while ensuring inclusive e-learning solutions and tackling the digital divide. It has also been important to reconsider the current delivery and the pedagogical methods in school and higher education by seamlessly integrating classroom teaching with e-learning models to build a uniform learning system. That is how the change has taken place in the education sector. The lockdown definitely has generated uncertainty over the exam cycle. So in fact, we have not yet had the university exams. They have still not been conducted. Now, maybe the universities may face impact in terms of shutdown, slowdown in the student internships and the placements, lower fee collection because students are not yet coming to college, so you cannot collect the fees. And that is all a vicious cycle, a cycle by itself, and it can create hurdles in managing the working capital. Especially the teaching faculty are more affected because of these, some of the points. And there's a glaring disadvantage as the exams have to be postponed. So the examinations cannot be conducted online, especially where you have labs, practicals and all, you cannot conduct it online. So it is not just the question of imparting continuous and uninterrupted learning during the outbreak of COVID-19 pandemic, but also the most important challenge for the instructor is to focus on the overall elements of a well-developed course as to how do you deliver, though you're using a digital platform, how do you deliver, how do you reach to the students, because you are not able to see the student, or you're not able to discuss freely with the student. So how do you deliver the well-developed course? So these were some of the challenges which we, as a teaching faculty, we had. So now the option was that e-learning is a viable solution at the moment to fill the void which has been created due to the absence of the classroom learning. Certain challenges definitely in a country like India needs to be addressed to bring the online education into the mainstream in India. One of the things is uninterrupted access to internet. It is yet to become a reality because India, with so many rural areas, it was really quite tough. The internet connectivity is not there. Students find it difficult. Even teachers in the rural areas, they don't have internet connectivity. So they also find it sometimes difficult to continuously deliver their lectures. Similarly, the online education needs to take cognizance of the different learning pace of the students and develop customized solutions for them. That is, when we are in the offline classes, we were knowing there are slow learners, there are fast learners. Okay. Now with the online, we are not able to make out whether the student had completely understood or not. And similarly, comes to the concerns of the increased screen time. The student is exposed to 3 to 4 hours of screen time. So the anxiety, the stress that is triggered due to the continuous use of electronic devices also needs to be addressed. That means the student does not have internet connectivity, or it is on and off going, or there is weak signal, his data pack is over, his mobile charge is over, his mobile needs to be charged, laptop is not there, or laptop is not working properly. So these were all the anxiety and stress which triggered, okay, in the student. In fact, recently we also had in TV news that school students who are on online teaching mode from a few months, what are the problems they are encountering? That means they are having the stress on the eyes, they are having headaches, they are already gone to specs, and they are having some disturbances, they are not able to concentrate properly. So these have all been the outcomes, like because of these going on through the online classes, what could be the effects on the children's mind, and they have been confined to home. But now another thing which was very good with this thing was that, see, we had around 32 crore children. So we somehow managed to keep them at home, engaging them for 4 to 5 hours daily, so that they do not go on to the streets and enhance the spread of the infection. So because of these online classes, we could keep the students at home, 4 to 5 hours, engage them, giving them assignments, so they could spend the remaining time, so they could spend most of the time at home and not go out. And if there was no of these online classes, they would not be able to go out. Okay. Now there is, because of this COVID-19, therefore there is a need to revamp the current pedagogy to seamlessly integrate online learning into the main education. And equally, it is important to devise quality benchmark for the education providers. And also it has presented, the COVID-19 has presented an opportunity to rethink the deep-rooted classroom mode of education and underscore the significance of online learning. And in fact, the COVID-19 may just be the tipping point for the reforms of the Indian education system. So maybe it may make us rethink going for a blended manner. Okay. Now, what has been the challenges? Challenges were that research has been affected in a very negative way. While it is true that if you have a non-based research, it can be carried through the student's perseverance and the contact with the mentor through the telephone calls or the emails. But in many cases where the secondary data are needed, the students cannot visit the sources like the institution itself, offices and library, as all data are not available online. It was difficult for the teachers also, because they also did not have much of the study materials, no access to the libraries. They had to search it through the e-library, and some teachers were also there in the rural areas, so they found little difficult. But somehow, as we say, that we Indians are very good at adapting to any type of situations. Very quickly, we have been able to adapt to these situations of COVID-19 and adapt ourselves to this online teaching. Okay, in the lab-based subjects, so the research is totally stalled. So doctoral research has been hindered both in the primary and advanced stages. So there is not, this has been an impact on the education system or the challenges. Okay. Now coming to what could be the positive impact of COVID-19 on the education system, that is, now there will be blended learning in fashion. That means you may be 30% online and 70% may be offline. Okay, that is a blended learning motion. Blended learning will be in fashion, where the schools will try blending different teaching models. Okay, you're using different digital platforms like Zoom, Google Meet, Teams, Microsoft Teams, so many different digital platforms. Okay, so similarly, teachers also will be trained and will become more tech savvy. So in fact, this is that if the teachers do not upgrade themselves, if they do not become more tech savvy, they will be left behind. So this is a challenge to the teachers, that they need to upgrade their skills. They need to upgrade their teaching skills more better with this COVID-19. The next normal, what is going to be. Okay. So this will be, it will set a norm in most of the schools, colleges and universities. And it will be a boost for many companies aiming at developing innovative ways of transforming the e-learning systems. And similarly with this, the quality of learning materials will improve over time, making it more interesting, more engrossing for the students, and there will be more transparency in academics. In fact, we teachers also went through a lot of trainings. We went through a lot of trainings during this COVID period. We attended a lot of webinars. We attended a lot of workshops, and we had a good exposure to so many international speakers and national speakers, and also had an idea as to how different teaching methodologies or different teaching strategies have been adopted, and that is how we have adapted to this change. Although now the online education alone cannot replace the classroom education because of the personalized nature of the attention and face-to-face interaction, which is not available on the online, it can still be an effective supplement to the brick mortar model of the education. So now, along with this, you have a blend of new age technologies like the artificial intelligence, machine learning, virtual reality. In fact, sometimes we have even shown the labs. We have done the demo and videographed it and shown it to the students how the labs can be conducted, though they have not been able to do it individually. So that is how they'll be instrumental in bridging the crucial gaps which is there. Okay. So now here, I just wanted to show you that now with the online, earlier when we were offline, we had the students in the college or the schools and we were one-to-one contact and this thing. And now what happened when the online, we had the whole family members also, coming to the classes because it was online classes. So sometimes they would be judging us on what was our knowledge or how was our voice modulation or whether the teacher was presentable. What was the grammar of the teacher? Was the teacher talking a proper English, or whether whether the punctuation marks were there? So that is how they we had the family members also involving in the classrooms with the online classrooms, and sometimes they also gave us certain inputs as to how it could be made better. So with these few points, I have just tried to present before that how the COVID-19 situation has had an impact on the education sector, and how we as teaching profession we have adapted to this, and also the students, more or less students also, though they had initial hiccups for 1 or 2 months, later on they have also adapted to this system of online learning, and not only adapted, they have also very well accepted that. So with this I would like to end my session, and I thank you all. I thank Mr. Sunil Chiplankar, KRPA, and Group Pharmaceuticals for giving me this opportunity. Thank you very much.
Dr. Narmada Madam. That was enlightening to know how omni-channel is now working. Now coming to the main part, it's indeed our great honor and pleasure to introduce Dr. B.R. Mamta Madam, IAS. She is currently the Additional Mission Director of Sakala Mission. She has another posting at the Administrative Training Institute. Now, seeing this goddess picture, you may be astounded what Sunil Chiplankar is showing this goddess photograph for. Well, I'll tell you, when I saw the resume of or biodata of Dr. Mamta Madam, immediately I thought of this, probably because it was Navratri time. Reason is amazing multitasking. If you see this goddess also, she is also a big multitasker. So same way, the only thing that stands out is the amazing level of multitasking Madam is able to do. Dr. Mamta Madam has trained policymakers, drafted public policies, and dealt hands-on with day-to-day governance at all levels, from city corporation to the Chief Minister's office, in her 28-year career as an administrator. She has worked as Joint Director of the Information Department, Media Advisor to Deputy Chief Minister, and she is known to be multitasking, and her nose is often buried in a book, as they say, while dealing with the knotty problems of state administration. She is not only in love with knowledge, but also cutting-edge technology. So she uses a blend of this to improve the quality of governance. Her PhD is from Bangalore University on the topic of a study of the organizational communication system and the introduction of models. So it is very clear that governance, granting good governance, is in her, you can say, DNA now. Another scheme that she has actively implemented is Sakala, which is time-bound services to citizens and a project that ensures delivery of government services from time to time. As the Chief Executive Officer of Tumkur, she has strived hard to make the district open defecation free. And she has also worked in Ramnagar as a Deputy Commissioner. She took up the Jalandolana People's Movement for water conservation. She threw herself completely into creating micro entrepreneurs for rural women and as a mission director of National Rural Livelihood Program. And she has managed to create 1 lakh micro entrepreneurs in a matter of a year. So Dr. Mamta Madam has worked as a journalist, college lecturer, even a product manager in a leading IT company. And her ability to do multitasking is, of course, what makes her special. And she has worked as a PRO in BBMP and also in the top rungs of the bureaucracy. She has done her master's in mass communication and she won a gold medal for the same in 1997. And Dr. Mamta Madam is married, well settled. She is married to a research scientist and has a 16-year-old daughter. And Dr. Mamta Madam has many other talents. She is a painter. She is interested in a lot of crafts, cultural heritage, web designing, technical writing. Her weekly column, Unseen Karnataka, in the New Indian Express is extremely popular. So you can well imagine that her contributions have been amazing in the sphere of governance. And she is one of the most interesting characters or ladies you will come across. Thank you very much, madam, for coming on to our webinar. Now it's all on to you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Narmada madam has just now spoken about what is the new normal in terms of education. I think the new normal in terms of daily life has completely changed. So today I'll just speak to you about some leadership lessons I got from very unlikely people during the COVID lockdown and during the COVID period. So I'd like to call it the leadership lessons of unlikely people, the COVID-19 experience. What is the new normal we are talking about? The new normal we are talking about is where you cannot shake anybody's hand. You have to maintain a social distance. You can't suddenly go to somebody's house like you used to. India was very famous for hospitality. You could just walk into anybody's house and be able to, spend some time with them and take their hospitality or invite somebody into your home, and that is not possible today. We have to wear a mask, so we really don't know who is who, what is happening. You can easily impersonate each other because of your masks. Our Mr. Sunil, Professor, the president of your vice president of this organization has used Archana's picture instead of mine, so we can easily, impersonate each other. So this is a kind of a new normal that we are going into. Just now, as Professor was already saying, we should avoid touching men. We should avoid men at this time, but we have to go with the women. Women everywhere in any case, but now it is making it more mandatory. So, all this is what Madam has already told. I will not delve too much into the technicalities of or what government or what we are doing to mitigate COVID. All that is a secondary thing. I will just talk about this experience that I have had in my stint of 2 years as the National Rural Livelihood Mission Director. Going back to January, I think sometime end December, January, I used to travel a lot to Delhi and to many places in India. In the airport, I would always find some people running around in masks. At that time, it has really not caught up. This fever had not really caught up with us. Although we had heard about what was happening in China, we never expected it will come to India so quickly. So we used to sort of take it very casually. And when I saw people with masks, I used to wonder. But something set me thinking that if situation turns like it is in China, what do we need to do? So one thing that I thought of, because I had created by then over 1 lakh micro entrepreneurs, and for me, see, they had just started. It was some of them were 1 year old, some of them were 1.5 years old, some of them were 3 months old. I wanted them to sustain, because having put in all their efforts, if they had to close shop, it is a very bad, see, for us, doing, for us itself, who are, financially at least stable, we find it very difficult to shut shop or we can't bear that loss. Can you imagine what it will be to a micro entrepreneur? She will never be able to do anything after that. So what I started doing is, there are two things I did. By February, I started putting women into making masks. I said all the tailoring women who are into tailoring get into mask making. So we got them massive training by our Department of Health and other technical people. We got them into the kind of masks, the 3-layer masks, cotton masks, and then also we procured that other material, from Citra, and we put them into making proper masks. Then there were many women who were already into phenyl making. So the phenyl making women and wash products making women, I had moved them to making sanitizers. We had procured ethyl alcohol, and we had given it to these women to start making sanitizers. Another thing I did was I got UNESCO. I tied up with UNESCO and with the National Institute of Panchayat Raj department, and got them all trained into what COVID is all about. And if it comes into India, what are we to do? How are we to handle it? I don't know. This was a spur of the moment decision I took at that time. And I had funds for training, which I had to utilize before March. I said, let me use it in this direction. So I did it thinking that it will never come to India, not realizing, it was just a wishful thing, in case it comes, we should be ready. That's all. That was the only reason. These women, can we go back to the presentation so that I can slip? So what happened is, when it came, by March, when it started coming in, so what happened is, it started affecting people from all walks of life, and then death became today's new normal. Is death is not, there has no discrimination, poor, rich, class, caste, community, nothing. So it comes unexpected. Thermal scanner. Before we would have people, receptionist, inviting you inside in an office, or people giving you water, and I don't know how many of you are the old timers will remember that anybody came home, first thing they would give them is water and jaggery. So now we are giving them sanitizer, and we are also giving them using the thermal scanner to see whether they are we can let them in or not. Although it doesn't make a difference, because he may not even have the temperature, but he will still. But that is what has happened. So large businesses are closing down and becoming small businesses in the neighborhood are becoming obliterated. Then you have these kaka shops and door deliveries. They are thriving actually. The kaka shops, which we were closing down because of big supermarkets, are now again thriving, because people would rather go to a nearby shop and buy something where it is handed over a counter than go to a supermarket and pick it off the shelf, because you don't know how many people would have touched it before you. The stress, tension, confusion, chaos. Then who is to care for the poor, the homeless, migrants, illiterate, ignorant? So when the lockdown came, it came very unexpectedly. So in the new normal, life is nothing but a ceaseless change till death, because change is happening every day, every hour, every minute. We are getting new things. Just today I was listening to Narmada Madam, and before that I was listening to Professor Sunil, and I realized that every minute things are changing. Somebody said, you can use this drug. Now they're saying it makes no impact. So similarly, every minute things are changing. Disease, death, and disruption is the new normal. Military term for that is VUCA. That is volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. COVID-19 public health emergency is an unprecedented crisis which nobody has seen. It has radically changed all our lives and putting all of us to a test. There are three priorities which we must chart, that is control and suppress spread, strengthen, maintain health services, support each other in the community to stay safe and healthy and well. So that was the reason why we trained these women into understanding, because in the rural areas, I remember that during the training, when we said Corona, people would say Karna Karna. That some Karna has come, that some Karna has come. I said Karna allama, adu Corona, because Karna antandre, he is a giver. But even Corona is a giver, but of a different kind. So that was the way it was. So we had to get the community to act together. See, all I did was this much. But what the women did after that is worth learning. So we said community has the key. So we said community should take over and do whatever that is. So I touched only the leaders. We have something called bookkeepers. In every self-help group, we have something called bookkeepers. I had 11,68,000 women. So I trained not all of them. We trained something like 30,000 women. Again, it was done online. We got something called SATCOM. It was done through SATCOM. Then what happened after that? After that, I can tell you a couple of stories. I was amazed. I don't know how many of you have read it in the newspapers. Everywhere, especially I'll tell you a story of one Dakshayani from Kalhalli in Hunsur Taluk. They got together. They went home, door to door, talking about Corona. We had given them some flip chart for their own training. We had told them you train your own fellow people in self-help groups. We never asked them to go and do the door to door. We just said, train your own members with these flip charts. They carried these flip charts. They carried the computers that we had given them, the iPads we had given them, went door to door. They trained women. They taught them that, number one, they made them calm. They made them calm down. When they went there, they trained them on what COVID is, nothing to be afraid of, and all those things. But at the same time, they realized quite a lot of things. They realized that people they're not bothered about Corona. They're more bothered about the daily food. People in the villages were not getting a daily meal. People were not able to go and procure their most essential commodities. Then even milk, which is available everywhere, was becoming scarce. Okay, the cattle feed was becoming scarce. So these women, this group, this is a Mahadeshwara Swasaya Sangha of Kalhalli, which is Hunsur. These women, Dakshayani and her 17 women joined together. They went to other groups. They went to groups. Some of the groups we had put them into making masks. They had taken from that. They went door to door and collected vegetables, whatever vegetables people could spare. They went from door to door, collected whatever grains people could spare. They distributed it to people who did not have it, which we never told them. And government at that time had still not started giving out grains, started distributing grains or food. By then, these women had already got into jobs. They had started distributing masks. They were distributing sanitary napkins. So this is something that set me thinking. We never told them to do all this, but they had started doing all this on their own. So they would suddenly call me and say, can you talk to so and so in the Jilla Panchayat to help us get some more masks? Can you talk to them to tell the PDO to buy some masks and give it to us? So the women who had moved from other businesses to mask making were thriving, actually. They were making more than 20,000 per month. And 20,000 was profit per month, and it is not their complete earnings. So these women also sat down to think, and they said, let us distribute a little bit from our profit to these women, so to these families. So they went about distributing sanitizers, masks, phenols, other things, and food items, sanitary napkin. There are units which are making small micro units making sanitary napkins. These women gave out sanitary napkins to be distributed among the women because people could not come out of their homes. So another thing that these women started doing is, the first thing that Dakshayani, when I was talking to her, she says, Madam, we realized that money has no value in a pandemic. It is only food, items of commodity, items of necessity that has a value. So we did not, we went around collecting this and distributing to people who required it. We also realized at this point of time, the importance is to not to let people come into our village. So they formed the neighborhood watches. So I had around almost 1 lakh neighborhood watches who were willing to work with the district administration. So they went to, what they would do is, any new person entering their village, they would immediately inform the district administration. They would force those families, because many families were not willing to quarantine the family members who had come from Bombay and from different states like Kerala, in Dakshin Kannada and Udupi and all that. They had people coming in hordes from Kerala. So they were getting people to, and Kodagu was another place. So they forcefully quarantined the family members. They informed district administration. They kept watch on the people in quarantine. They said, I remember one lady, she's called, her name is, I'll tell you just a minute, Hasnabi of Harapnalli, in Harapnalli Bagli village. She comes from Banishankari Ward Level Federation. She says, Madam, I made biryani. I took this biryani and gave it to the people in quarantine. And I told him, look, I will give you very delicious food. Don't go out of the house. The only thing I request from you is don't go out of the house. So the quarantine area was their local schools. They used local schools to quarantine them, and they kept a watch. So wherever these women worked, they were working hand in glove with this. Next thing they realize is that a lot of people are stranded. People are stranded. They are not able to go back to their villages. They are they found people walking from Mumbai back home. People from Delhi, even from North India, people were walking back home. So people coming to Raichur from Hyderabad, walking because they didn't have vehicle. They were walking up to Raichur. So these people were stopped. Many women have gone to the extent, which is a very wrong thing to do, but they've gone to the extent of cutting down the road. They've cut off the roads to ensure that these people don't enter into the village. They have the people who quarantined, they have kept watch on them and informed hospitals. There is this very beautiful human interest story that I must tell you. There is this lady from Huvin Hadgali, Uttangi village. Her name is Uma Shanbag. She says in the middle of the night, suddenly some lady came running to their house, saying that her daughter, who's pregnant, has to reach the hospital. But even if the ambulance came and they took the thing, and she was very worried because by about April, May, it had already spread to the villages. So she says there was no point in taking this lady to the hospital. She says they found the midwife, brought the midwife and the doctor. They brought the doctor to the village and did the delivery at home. So the people have gone to all extents. There is a boy, young boy. He and his younger sister, who was going to college, they have done the delivery of a lady along the roadside under a tree. So these are the human interest stories that you will see. Coming back to the subject, this women, now what is that I see? The lessons that I have learned from them is that they're ordinary people. All we did is give them some knowledge. they were able to do what we could not do. Our own government officers were not willing to go down to these villages, go door to door and talk to these women, whereas these women did it. So at this point of time, what was necessary was a leadership which these women took up. They went and this is a very beautiful story by Chandrakala. She belongs to Sri Maruti SAG from Jilavanlapalli. She is from Bagepalli. This group of women went down and burnt up the toddy shandy. There was a shandy which was selling toddy very in a stealthy way because all the bars were in any case closed. So these ladies went and they have a nice photograph and a video also. They have gone and they have burnt it up in the night. So in the night all the toddy was burnt up. So they said if we are as women, we are able to control ourselves and control our children and keep them at home, these men will go out and bring corona back to us. So we should somehow control them. So they put an end to that. So this is the kind of leadership which we never asked them to do, but it came out. So it set me thinking. It set me thinking, saying that, look, even if we had driven this, if I or anybody else tried to drive this, we could not have driven this as well. Now, what is that is required of a leadership? We always think leaders are, have a kind of look about them. They either look like Rajinikanth, or they are leaders are having degrees. Leaders have special education. The leaders have charisma. Leaders have, different kind of ability. But during the crisis, what is required? We require the 6 C's of the kind of leadership that is required is to be calm, to be confident, to be communicative, to be a bit collaborative. We should be community-based. They should be also compassionate. All these qualities were there in these women without us telling them. They have prioritized. As I told you, Dakshayani tells me, madam, we realized it is food that is required and not money. Money will be of no use. It will be only commodities, food that is required. So they made their priorities right. They also, it's a non-binary kind of a leadership that was necessary, which they came out with that kind of leadership. And they also delivered what was required. Not only that, they charted a future course of action for themselves and the community. They were able to share even that little money they made, 20,000 CB. In Ramnagar, we put women onto, we had to see, my idea was they have to have an alternative livelihood. If there is no livelihood for them during that time, they will suffer. So what I did is I spoke to the Chief Executive Officer of Jilla Panchayat of Ramnagar, and I said, our women will do the measurement of the property. They will assess the property taxes. Allow them, let the owners of the house where the property taxes assessment, which have not been done for many years, let them pay 20 rupees for every home that is measured. So women were able to make 11 to 12,000 rupees in a month there. More than 200-250 women were able to make 12,000 to 15,000 rupees during that month. So different activities like that they got on to themselves. So next thing is, let me get on to the chart, and then they worked on the psychology. See, they were from the community, so people are willing to listen. In the beginning, they say, "Tumba galati madoru." They were getting very angry with us. They would shout at us. People would shout at us. They will say, "Why are you coming and telling us all this?" But as they realized that we mean business, we are coming there to help. They're saying they collected stories to inspire each other about how well that was being handled. If you have read the newspaper, you will realize Chamarajanagar, not a single case of corona was reported till about August. Not a single case of corona was reported in Chitradurga till about July. So these are the women who went around and did all this work in Hunsur, Mysore. Even today, in the villages, Kallahalli village, not a single case is reported even today. That is the kind of thing that women have done. They collected milk from families and gave it to families which didn't have milk. So this is a kind of leadership, and I was thinking why I'm calling it unlikely leaders is these are people who have it in them. It's a latent leadership. That leadership qualities are there in them. Can we go further, please? It's already there in them. They are just so it says sometimes the best inspiration in life comes from the most unlikely places, and the leadership here was from women. You can see from the pictures, they are people who don't have even proper clothes to wear, but they have gone around and made such a difference in whichever village they have come from. I have several such stories. I have hundreds and hundreds of such stories. They moved from different places. They we think they're hungry, they're poor, and we need to fix them, we need to save them, we need to do things for them. However, they showed that the resilience that they had, we did not have. Many people in the cities could not bear this thing. We found them going and standing in front of in big queues in front of. And the worst thing is I saw was when the bars were opened, I saw miles and miles of people and queue where women also went and stood in the queue to get that. What is that we have learned from these people? There is a lot we have to learn from them. That's why I said no amount of degrees, no amount of titles will help us understand what these people have done. So they stood and they persisted till even today they are persisting. They've engaged in mask making. They have engaged in they've made about 1.5 crores masks and distributed them. There are 11 lakhs liters of sanitizers. Liquid soap, 3 lakhs liters of liquid soaps have been made. 5.5 lakhs phenyl as of today. 120 tons of fruits were distributed. See, one more thing that happened in Kolar, Kolar, in Kodagu, in Shumaga, farmers were throwing off tomatoes, farmers were throwing off pineapple, farmers were throwing off fruits. My women, I love to call them my women because I have become very passionately involved with them. These people went and collected these things. They pulped, I don't know whether you read the newspapers. With the help of an NGO called Argyam, they pulped the tomatoes and supplied it to Hopcoms. They made a dried up pineapple, they distributed. So now after that I put them in, by May I had put them into food processing so that they learn food processing, so that anytime such situations came, they could. So they procured it from farmers. They helped the farmers not to go into distress. They purchased it, may not be at the same rate that they would have got, but they purchased it, they put it to best use, they transformed it into again put it back into the communities. Then another thing that I found is that they also went around, see like this, these are all our pictures. Sidli Chiranga Development Block, Chirangi. Okay, they went around. This is from Gadag. They went with a mobile mask selling point. Then they went, I put them on to GEM. They went on to see all the produce they were making, they were not able to sell. We put them on to government e-marketing. So people would bid and buy it on the government e-market. I put them on to Amazon. I put them on to Flipkart. We put on something called e-Grama Heart. E-Grama Heart is another selling thing. So they went to bus stops like this and they were sitting and selling masks in the bus stops. They went around distributing food, and this is not given by government. This is all food they have collected from door to door. All these material they have collected and they have distributed to migrant workers, landless laborers. 1,165 community kitchens were started where they cooked meal, They not only distributed it to landless, they also distributed to corona warriors, government, police people, the grassroots workers of the government were also being fed by these women. So they went around educating women, educating them in the tandas. There are a lot of tandas in Ballari. This is from Ballari. So in Ballari, they went to tandas. They educated them about how to re-engineer their life and livelihood. They counseled people who are in trouble. They're activating families to look positively at life. This I have already told you. They worked with Asha workers. They gave a lot of support to Asha workers. They distributed free of cost masks to even our police fellows. In Chikmagalur, the self-help groups actually supported all the warriors with the masks that they had made. Community kitchens were opened, 1,605. So what I learned from them is that everybody, however, however uneducated, however, dumb you are, there is a latent leadership in them. These are ordinary people. They have strength, a lot of strength in them. The latent leadership, it just needs a little bit of ignition. It's like, hey, all you need to do is just strike a match and throw it. They are willing to take it up and take it forward. None of it was structured by us. We just gave them the know-how and they have innovated. They have done, they made, see, as soon as they heard in that Ayurvedic can cure, they started making kashaya powders and distributing it. Then when they heard that whatever they hear, they'll call up and suddenly I will get a call in the middle of the night also sometimes, evening, late in the evening. Madam, idu madidre agutta? Can we do this? Can you find out from somebody? Is it possible? Can you get somebody to train us? We are willing to do this. Namge training kodstira. So this is the kind of thing they would talk to me about. So what I'd like to sum up is that, so these are all some clippings which I have put. That's why I said anybody can understand Kannada. What I learned is that leadership springs in unlikely places through unlikely people. It turns out you don't have to have a degree in leadership development to affect change in this world. You can grow up scavenging in the village garbage dump and still find your voice and have a vision to change things. And that is the kind of vision that these women demonstrated. And so okay, now many people are asking me this question, is it sustaining? This leadership, has it sustained? It is not only sustained. Now, I was just talking to these women about 4 or 5 days ago after Chandrasekhar asked me to talk to you all about it. I was just trying to reconnect and ask them what is happening. So they tell me, this lady Ratnava from Ratnama Wadar, she's from Gandhi Sanjeevani Badami, self-help group. She tells me, Madam, munje namge yaru na maryade, nobody was giving us any respect in our places. Now, I have to just walk on the street. People will stop. Even the very big man, the Patel of our village, he stops by and he says, Yenava, Ratnava, are you okay? What is happening? What is there something that you're doing? Then she asks me, Madam, we want to make roti and sell it in Bangalore. How do I do it? I said, yeah, we can help you do that. Then another thing she says is, Madam, we are planning to, we have now every woman in our village, we have motivated them to have a backyard kitchen garden. Everybody, they say, we told them tomorrow again, if there is corona or some other disease, you cannot go out. You should have at least vegetables in your garden, which you can eat. So we have every woman, we have put them to make a kitchen garden, and every woman, every household, we've made them to keep hen in their house, which there will be egg, cattle in their house, they will always have milk. So we have motivated them to do. So I said, yeah, you motivated them to do. Now where will they get the money if they have to go on? He said, no, we have made a collective. I have formed a collective where we go from door to door, surplus vegetables we collect, we take it to the Badami market and we sell it. We collect all the eggs from the family, we sell it, and we make a, her daughter's name is Neela. She says Neela makes one big list of what we have collected from people. We go and give them the money. I take a small commission. She tells me very sheepishly in the end that I take a small commission because I have to live also. So this is they have taken it forward. And I was talking to Ratna, Dakshayani of Hunsur. She says, Madam, we have now formed a collective. In this collective, we are training all women, all the households in first aid. We are doing. We have contacted our doctor in the PHC. So he is willing to get a team. We are doing that. Next, we are also planning to have grain bank. What is it called? Grain. They want to have a storage where she says anything that is additional, anything additional with you want to give us, we will collect and keep it, and this is going to be kept for time when there is a need. So instead of going at that time collecting, so every village now they have in Hunsur, where in Taluk, they have started making this kanaja where they'll keep all this food and food grains which will be distributed. So everybody has come up with so many learnings. The biggest learning, I was shocked when she told me, one of the learning that she said, Madam, money is going to be of no value. It is just going to be paper. So commodity is very important. So we should always collect commodities and keep it. You've been able to do this. So there is a sustainability. Is it sustaining? Many people have asked me, has this leadership sustained? I said leadership has not sustained. I find that it's not only sustained, it is taking new forms. They have got new respectability because of that. That respectability is inspiring them to do something better. I don't know how many of them may stand for elections also. Many of these women have now become so strong in their villages, they may even stand for elections. So very soon you will see many of my women who will be, either Gram Panchayat, Adhyakshas, and we never know if they even become an MLA or something more than that. So with that, I'd like to thank you for an opportunity for me to present. I would have loved to present some videos, but I think since you didn't want me to do with people with Kannada, these videos are only in Kannada. So we have to still make videos in English. So I thank you for your participation and your patient hearing.
Thank you.
Is there any questions I'd like to take?
Yes, definitely, ma'am. Thank you at the outset very, very much for the fantastic talk on women empowerment, women leadership, and women-centric leadership. And my humble apologies for the fox paw regarding the photo goof up.
Probably no, that's okay. It's a new normal, so not to worry.
You are very kind, madam. Very, very kind. Actually, more than the questions, there are encomiums. There are a lot of people who are appreciating your efforts, ma'am. And being a pharmacist, my first query to you, then I'll take up 2 or 3 other queries. What do you feel, ma'am, that from your point of view as an IAS officer and who has got vast amount of experience in administration, what role can we pharmacists now continue to play in this? Because you are a corona leader, we are a corona warrior. Please tell us, ma'am.
Yes, in fact, today I agreed to address all of you because I have a selfish motive.
Yes, ma'am.
I may be an IAS officer, but my passion is with women empowerment. I want to work with these women, and I will continue to work with these women till whatever time. I may not be in that post, I may be in a different post, but nothing to stop me from doing some extra work in the government. Nobody is going to stop me with it. So my selfish motive in this, let me tell you, is that I want your Pharmacists Association to be able to come forward, conduct trainings, further trainings for these women on simple uses of medicines, educate them about early detections of not only corona, it need not be corona, but and See, when I was in mission director of NRLM, I went around to all these corporates. I said, we don't want your money. We want your time. We want you to come, take up. See, these women are very, very enthusiastic. They will do anything. You just show them your little finger, they will know how to swallow your hand. They are so brilliant. They're brilliant women, very brilliant. I'm telling you, and they have a lot of abundant common sense, which we don't have. I'm telling you, with all our degrees, we have now lost our sense of common sense. We don't have we have no longer having that common sense, but they are having abundant common sense. All you have to do is pick up a group. I request your association also, pick up a few groups. I can even identify and tell you some groups. Handhold them. They're running businesses. Give them ideas of how to run businesses. Give them new ideas of what to start, what to do. Get them market linkages. They want, linkages. They want you to just appreciate them and pat their back and tell them, you do this, you're doing this. Why don't you go a little step ahead? They are now, I have almost 1 lakh groups making masks. So I want, and PPE kits. I forgot to tell you, they're making PPE kits also. They are making a head, that shield. I'm wearing one of the, I always wear one of the shields that they make. So I'm requesting you all to come forward, pat their backs, be with them. I want mentors. I've been looking for mentors since I have been in Sanjeevani. I have been looking for mentors. So this is one open call to you all for mentoring.
Correct, ma'am. Thank you very much. Actually, AIOCD, which is All India Chemists and Druggists Association, this organization has also been purchasing from many of these self-help groups the different items for COVID-19 management and retailing it. So this is just additional information. Then another point, ma'am, which is very useful actually. Most of the pharmacy colleges nowadays are having lady pharmacy students. If you take around 100 students, probably around 70 to 80 will be ladies and 30 will be gentlemen. So obviously the way you have explained and you have given the empowering suggestions, this will very much motivate the lady pharmacists also. One point, sorry, please.
I would call upon Madam Narmada also. She should, once her colleges start, you should link up and if possible, motivate your children to do internships with these people, go around and spend time.
Definitely, I'll be interested, and it's giving me a new thought, new concept after listening to you, madam. Definitely a new thought and very good concept that you have developed on women empowerment. Women empowerment could be in this direction also.
Yes.
Like you said, we were always thinking that you need to be leaders, but you, in your talk and your works, you have shown us today that women can be empowered even the other way also.
Yes.
And that is the need of the hour. That's what I feel.
Yes.
That's the need of the hour in our society, in the Indian context.
Sunil sir, sorry, you were saying something, I interrupted you.
Yes, ma'am. You call me Sunil. And as I was saying, a lot of these kids, pharmacy kids, who are now working with the KRPA and other chemist associations, they are also very good at counseling. So one important point which I was thinking of is, we will be linking with your self-help groups and pharmacy colleges and associations like KRPA. So they will help in this counseling, because that is the point regarding mentoring which you are saying. So definitely we will take it up, and this will help in the contribution of further strengthening the self-help groups which you have created, the micro entrepreneurs which you have created now.
Yeah, definitely. That's a very good gesture. That will be very useful. And also take it forward. I mean, I want you to spread the word. The more you spread the word about these women, so that is the reason why I'm even doing a book. In fact, I was
wow.
I'm also working on a book which will talk about these women, and I wanted to spread as far as possible. And that is only way. See, this, as I told you, in the times when there is a very bad news going around everywhere, this is the good news. The good news is in this times of crisis, they have found an opportunity. So that every crisis has an opportunity, and this opportunity is what these women have capitalized. And every time I was so happy, I'm telling you, every time I went and spent a little time with these women in the villages, I used to come back with a lot of energy, positive energy. And so I'm sure you will benefit a lot from these women. It's a symbiotic relationship. So,
ma'am, you are very compassionate. Thank you so much. And one question I would like to ask, ma'am, what we have observed in the entire conversation, I just got the question in the WhatsApp. So what we have observed is that in the entire theme of your talk, it was basically leadership at the grassroots level. Now that's not easy. Stimulating the leadership at the grassroots level is not at all easy. Many a times it gets sabotaged by various, vested interests.
yeah.
So now in this context, can you please highlight, the question is, can you please highlight how to manage this challenging situation? Because even if somebody wants to do good work, there will be vested interests who want to sabotage.
That is there everywhere, But one thing I have realized from very early is that when suppose you go to some place and you are like scuttled, actually you would have gone with a purpose and a goal. Your goal and purpose should become so important that everything else you should start, no matter what disappointments are there. The moment what happens is we all work with ego, There is an ego. The moment somebody says no to you, our ego is hurt. Or if somebody makes you wait, your ego is hurt. Or somebody, so what happens is that is because your goal is not so important to you. Yourself becomes important. If your goal becomes very important to you, then you will everything else. That's what I'm saying. These ladies have gone through a lot of humiliation when they went from door to door. People have asked them to go away. People have shouted at them, but they persisted. They said, because if even one family does not follow the rule, we will be inviting Corona. I mean, according to them, it is Karuna. I mean, Karna. So they will be inviting Karna instead of, So they persisted because the goal of avoiding or mitigating or preventing was more important to them than their own self. So I think we should put the goal before the self, and it will be easily you can manage it.
Humility will make the things happen. Okay, thank you so much.
And I think somebody is talking about time management.
Yes.
So I think we should close. Otherwise, somebody will be very upset.
I'll ask you one last question, ma'am. It's come on WhatsApp. It's from an important person. The last question is regarding the rural population as well as the urban population with whom you might have worked and definitely worked. So how is the challenge in these two spheres? Like why he's asking is he's a rural pharmacist. So he wants to know whether your challenge in rural areas was easier or compared to urban. What is your take on
My challenge in the rural areas was easier. Urban dynamics is a little different. In the urban area, a woman, I would try to put them into some livelihood activity. I would tell them, look, you start this, okay, whatever this is. No, after 2 days, they're already enamored by a garment factory. After 2 days, they will close it and they will go and work as a domestic help. So the challenge, the rural area, I found women persistent. Even though there was Narega or something else, which is more appealing because, you get money easily. They were not going for it. Because I think the dynamics in a rural area is different. Once you started, many places, I remember Sakleshpur, they were making sanitary napkins. Then, because of that weather, in fact, I advise them not to start that in Sakleshpur because the weather condition is not good for making sanitary napkins. Humidity is there, Tumbali. But they went and started. Then in the middle, they went into a lot of problems, and I think the bank also, tried to recover through very bad means of, all the loan and all that. So when I asked them, why did you continue? And now they're doing well. But those days they continued, they changed their business. Then now they're doing pretty well. But when they were persisting, I kept asking them, what made you to persist and start another business? You had already gone into a lot of problems. They said, Madam, Maryade Prashna.
Oh,
I had set my foot out to show my family I will succeed. I wanted to show my husband, my family, I will succeed. Now, if I stepped back, I would have succumbed. So I persisted and I changed, as you advised us, I changed the business. I put them into mask making and they've earned quite a lot of money.
Madam, thank you very much. There are more questions and remarks are all in favor, and there's a lot of gratitude towards you for taking off so much of time on a holiday and then addressing us. So I will take your cue that time management is important. So I will go to the next point in the agenda. It is to introduce the Sutradhar of today's session, and Dr. Chandrasekhar NS, MPharm PhD. This dynamic gentleman has worked a lot in R&D. He basically is a scientist, and he has worked with several product concepts in cosmetics too. Like, for example, iontophoretic technology for anti-wrinkle and under-eye dark circles. So that's a very interesting point. So pharmacists who are listening to this would definitely take note of it. And then he has wonderful experience not only in formulation and product development, but also pre-formulation. He has done what is called as measurement science and claim generation for products. He is also into conducting and coordinating clinical trials for sensory evaluation also, not just the clinical aspects. We have also seen he started his career with Thomson Reuters, and he has done several things for brand building associated with the R&D team. He has been instrumental in working with the ITC R&D in the same subject matters which I had just emphasized on. So he has done a lot of work, including related to patents, and also received grants for up to 30 lakh rupees from the Department of Biotechnology. And he is working on drugs related to rheumatoid arthritis, but currently at Gangwal Chemicals, he is focusing on transdermal drug delivery systems for tobacco de-addiction and opioids management in pain. So that is something very interesting. He is working on cutting-edge aspects. Thank you, Dr. Chandrasekhar, sir, for the tremendous contribution you have made to pharmacists today, because we believe of the pharmacist, by the pharmacist, and for the pharmacist. You have got a great leader, an IAS leader, to come here and address us. Now on to you, Dr. Chandrasekhar, sir.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Sunil Chiplankar, for your kind words. And by hearing these two people, I came to know is leadership is not a position or a title; it's an action and example. Means a true leader always practice the respect for self, respect for others, and responsibility for their actions. And whatever the stories we have heard from Dr. Mamta about their her journey through as an administrators and whatever the challenges she has faced as a leader, where she can predict and forecast and imagine what the crisis can be and how the crisis can be handled, and she has proved it and played a very instrumental role in addressing the self-help groups. And the good part was, like, as she keep on speaking, the new stories were coming in. These stories looks to be simple, but these are really great inspiration and passionate stories. And simple things gives the big result. That is what we are able to take it from this. These women are self-help group people, are a team, work for their passion or for their community and for their village or the people who are near and dear to them, not expecting anything from anyone. So these simple, compassionate, where they have all these 6C are imbibed in them. But as a people, it is our responsibility to respect, recognize them, and to take them to the next level. As a pharmacist, she has given us a new ray of hope and the new way how we can play role in the community for these women. As we also have the community pharmacist, as apart from other pharmacists, colleges plays a very important role. It is our duty to teach the kids how we can serve our citizens better, and especially the rural people, giving them the small tips, example like how to take a medicine or how to store the medicines, or what is the importance of taking the medicines. If we can help them, probably we will be serving the better needed person in the country. Because even when we give the tablets, they don't know how to take it, whether they have to take before the food. Before the food means how many times, whether half an hour, 1 hour, 1.5 hour before the food, or after the food means when they have to take it. So these simple things, if you teach them with these groups, probably they will be the biggest leaders, and we are going to create a mass movement for the country, as well as the pharmacists will be doing our duty. So I vouch that Karnataka State Registered Pharmacy Association will take this as an key agenda for them, as an objective for them, to take this momentum in at least in the Karnataka initially, with Madam, she can help us, and also Professor Narmada, the principal of the college, where the biggest youths is there with them, and they can do the much more better things. And listening to all, and I thank you very much for everyone, and I thank you, Dr. Mamta ma'am, sparing your time on the holiday and enlightening us about your real stories. These are the real stories. They are the unsung heroes. They are equal to the soldiers who are sitting in the borders, who are protecting our country. And I thank you very much for the KRPA and Group Pharmaceuticals and Professor from Vipram, and also Madam Mamta, for your spending your time and giving me a valuable time to share. And thank you very much. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
So over to Dr. Kaushik Devraju, our dynamic president of KRPA. Please do address us, sir.
First of all, let me thank all of you for coming here and joining us for this wonderful webinar. I know, to start with, I think Narmada ma'am told about the new normal of the students, how the difficulties faced by the students and as well as the staff. Narmada ma'am made a right note that whenever the students are there in the live mode, in the schools, colleges, the teachers can identify who is that, who did not understand, who understood. So it will be recalling, this person did not understand, and start explaining betterly. That is the one thing that we are missing in this virtual mode, and we will make sure that the offline mode starts very soon. I think the government also come up with the new regulations that 17th of November the colleges are going to open, and hopefully the new normal will come very soon. And coming to our the main speaker of today, Dr. Mamta Madam, I don't know how to thank, this was the first time that an IAS officer, the bureaucrat, came to our webinar, with a motto and with authority to say that, I have come here with a purpose, saying that, these are the things that I expect in return. I think with that perspective, ma'am, we will make sure that, we have a lot of 260 members, you please name us, we have all over Karnataka also. We'll be very much happy to help you. And coming to this COVID period, all the shops were shut down and the pharmacies were open. Our profession was very closely working with the community. I think that was the one thing that I would like to say at this moment, and that is where we are proud of as a pharmacist, and we'll be very much happy to collaborate with and work on your motto. And as Chandrasekhar sir also mentioned, we have got a new objective to work on this, and we'll make sure that we'll deliver on these terms. And Chandrasekhar sir, thank you for roping in all the people and making this session more lively. And as Sunil sir said, the Sutradhara of this webinar.
Okay.
And as always, last time I mistakenly forgotten to thank Sunil sir. Please don't forget me. Forget me, sir, please. As you always know, you are the Karyakarta of this, Sutradhara and Karya Sutra of this, all these webinars, by the pharmacists, of the pharmacists, to the pharmacists. Thank you very much. And I would also like to thank the KDPMA chairman, Sunil Attawar, who is also the MD of Group Pharmaceuticals. Thank you very much. To all the attenders and all our pharmacists, thank you very much. And have a nice day.
Kaushik, just 1 minute. In the chat, there was someone had asked a query. That is, what do we have to do? That once the colleges reopen shortly, apart from sanitizer, mask, and social distancing, what else we need to do? There was a query on that. I think that question was for me. I would like to answer it. Now, see, once the colleges reopens on November 17th or maximum by December, apart from social distancing, mask and sanitizer. So we would like to have, you can have staggered timings, not calling all the students at the same time. Might be you have a morning shift, in the evening, afternoon shift, so you reduce the number of classes, or you only have the labs, the theory classes, you still have it online, okay? You only have the labs and you stagger the lab timings, okay? This I'm talking with respect to science colleges where labs is mandatory. So you have staggered timings, alternate days, so that you don't have the whole crowd of students coming there at one time. Of course, at school, there are guidelines being provided by the government. Providing guidelines, we will be doing the social distancing, mask and sanitizers, all that will be provided. But apart from that, see, being this crowd being children and youth, you cannot control them. We very often we observe. See, though now we have made them examination fees paying is all online. We have told them, don't come to the colleges. You pay the exam fees online. You pay your tuition fees online. So we have told them, but still the students would like to come out because they have been confined to their home for almost 7 months. So they want to meet their friends. They want to see the people. So somehow they'll try to come out. And we have observed now when they came to pay the exam fees, they have not, in spite of giving them all directions and all those things, still they like to come together. They like to be together and chat. So you reduce the number of people coming. So you have in staggered options like sessions, a morning session, afternoon sessions. You reduce the number of students coming. I think that should be able to work out. That's what I feel. That's how I'm planning to do in my college. So that reduce the number of students coming at one particular time, form very smaller groups, and that even seating arrangements for them. That's how we did in our annual exams we had just last month. We had annual offline exams. So we spread the seating arrangements for them. We spread the seating arrangements, and of course we had the thermal scanners, and after every session, the labs were all sanitized, the exam rooms were all sanitized. You had a mask, we had the face shields, gloves were worn. All these precautions have been taken. Exams have been conducted, and of course, all was successful. So when the students come back to the mainstream, so these are all the precautions we'll have to take. So I think that answers one of the queries of who was posted.
Thank you very much, Dr. Narmada Madam. Thank you very much, everybody, all dignitaries.
Yeah.
Do I have the permission to end the webinar event?
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, I take your permission.